ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
It's time to flip a coin and find out.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
Flip it again. And welcome on back. It's the Coin Flip Podcast. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly. We're going to be talking about Week 9 in the National Football League season in full swing midway through. But of course, Martin, we got to talk about Week 8, a quick preview and wrap up of what we're going to see coming up in the NFL, what we've just seen. And Martin, as we creep into November now, I can't think of a better time in the sports world. We got the NFL. We got NBA starting up. We got hockey. Hockey lovers even getting to see their favorite sport come back. And of course, MLB. Right down to the wire, 3-1 lead at the time of what we're recording this video on a Wednesday afternoon. Martin, sports world, everything's going good so far. Martin, but Week 8. What did you think of Week 8?
You know, to touch on just real quick with the sports world, you're absolutely right. A World Series champion could be decided tonight. A team could win their first, or a team can continue to try to win their second. NHL starting up, NBA starting up, Victor Wembanyama doing a great job. NFL, you're right. To Week 8. You know, it was a fun week, honestly, to watch. Some of the early games were fun to watch. The Jets and the Giants game, I mean, if people had heart attack pills next to their bedstand watching that game, they were definitely on the rise with heart pressure and trying to make sure that didn't kill them. The Atlanta and Titans game, who saw the Tennessee Titans with Will Levis throwing 3 touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins in his first career start? I didn't see that coming. That was a fun one to watch. The Eagles and the Commanders, that was fun just because the Eagles defense was just all over the place until the very last end of the game. The game I picked as an underdog pick, the Bengals, that was fun to watch. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow go to California and embarrass the Niners. Obviously, what happened to the Raiders with the Lions winning, the GM, the head coach, the offensive coordinator are out the door, and they put a linebacker coach, Antonio Pierce, former coach with Arizona State with Herm Edwards, as the head coach for the Raiders at the time being. So it was an up and down, topsy-turvy week, and we'll see what happens in Week 9.
Martin, for more comments on Week 8, pretty solid week. I mean, my Panthers, got to mention that to kick off the Coin Flip Podcast. My Panthers are no longer winless. We are, for the time being, it's debatable. Maybe we're not the worst team in the NFL anymore, but I was really glad to see us get Bryce Young's first victory on the year in his rookie campaign. A nice win at home against C.J. Stroud, another rookie rival, and the Houston Texans. Martin, some other games that stuck out to me this week. Of course, the Broncos caught everybody's eye, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that reminds us a lot of last year's Colts contest back in 2022. But Martin, we knew the Chiefs were bound to have a week like this at some point. It's hard to kind of keep that standard in the games in the middle of the year that don't really matter as much when you've already gotten out to a one-game cushion in the one-seed playoff picture in the AFC. Martin, the Lions, the Chargers both handled business big time in the bright lights of Sunday and Monday Night Football. The Bengals and the 49ers went at it in, a tale of two very good teams. And we're going to be seeing a lot of that in Week 9. Eagles and the Commies had a closer matchup than a lot of people thought, but the Eagles squeaked it out by exactly how much Vegas thought they would, 7 points. And then, of course, back on last Thursday night, the Bills winning by 6 against the Buccaneers at home in kind of a low-scoring game there. Martin, anything else that stuck out to you from Week 8 before we move on?
Not much. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about the Raiders and their coaching decisions later in the show for just a second. But to iterate it and to top it, your Panthers getting the win over C.J. Stroud and the Texans, that was a fun game to watch. Jacob, that was a fun back and forth. It wasn't like two terrible teams that couldn't score. It wasn't like, 10-3 final. It was a legitimate back and forth, low scoring game that was enjoyable.
And of course, every week this year seemed to have one really key player to an offense, to a defense, go down with some bad news, and that was Kirk Cousins. Kirko is going to be a no-go for the rest of the year, maybe miss the start of the beginning of next season. Martin, a very underrated quarterback in a lot of people's eyes, a very overrated quarterback in a lot of people's eyes as well. We will not be seeing him for the rest of the 2023 season. But without further ado, Martin, there's so many good games in Week 9. We got to touch on it, but of course, our weekly contest here, the Pick'ems, money line, outright predictions that we've been doing all season long. Part of the reason you watch us here in the Coin Flip Podcast. I went 9-7, Martin. I squeaked out a victory. I improved to 76-46 overall on the year. Neither one of us did very good on our underdog picks. We didn't have many of them. Martin, you had the lone. You went 8-8 though. That
Yes,
Bears game might have cost you on Sunday night. You are now 65-57 overall on the year. And we move now into Week 9. Martin, there's some heavy hitters. Dolphins and Chiefs, Seahawks and Ravens, Bills and Bengals, and Cowboys and Eagles. Some great games on the Sunday slate. But Martin, let's kick it off. Titans at the Steelers.
Yeah.
What happens here?
This is an interesting pick. It's interesting in the sense that Will Levis finally did something to spark this Titans offense. Obviously, they went up against a marginal Falcons defense, and maybe that was just a situation that Will Levis took advantage of and was able to get DeAndre Hopkins. It was a home game, the Oilers uniforms, everyone was ruckus. Maybe it was just the right time with the stars lining up at the right moment. They're going up against the Steelers, who struggled. Their defense is not particularly good unless it's a pass rush. Their offense is struggling. I'll take the Titans in this one. I think the Titans are underdogs, so that will be one of my first underdog picks in this one. Give me Tennessee.
Martin, on screen, you're correct. The Titans are underdogs. I've locked you in for the Titans this week. Tennessee's 3-4, taking on Pittsburgh 4-3. About an even matchup when it comes to the ESPN matchup predictor. Martino, if Will Levis looks anything like he did against the Atlanta Falcons, I think this will be a victory for the Tennessee Titans. But the Steelers are playing solid. They're playing solid football. It feels like every year they're going to do just enough to get into the postseason. They had a 10-point loss to Jacksonville last week, and that was at home in a game that a lot of people picked the Steelers to win. I don't see them losing 2 in a row, and I especially don't see them losing 2 in a row at home. Martin, I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I think Will Levis falls back to earth. I think if Mika Fitzpatrick is good to go, quick check at the injury report. No, he's out. Perhaps there's going to be some gaps there in the Steelers defense, but I think Kenny Pickett and George Pickens will provide just enough on offense to get it done. I don't think Will Levis will have back-to-back weeks with 4 touchdowns or really anything close to that. I'm not saying he, can return to that production at some point this season, but not against the Steelers on the road. Dolphins and Chiefs. Martin, Kansas City's a 1.5-point favorite.
Yeah, this game should have been in KC. That's how it was promoted in the offseason, that we finally get Tyreek Hill to return to Kansas City, face the Chiefs, possibly be the Chiefs. It could have been on Sunday night. Really, this game should have been on Sunday night. In Germany, first game in Germany for the NFL. The Dolphins have not been good on the road when it comes to top-tier teams. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Eagles. But this Chiefs defense is really suspect to me. That's not a surprise when it comes to Steve Spagnuolo and his suspect defense. This is such a close game. I have a feeling that the Chiefs' struggles against the Broncos were just a one-time. I am going to go with the Dolphins. I think that offense is just better. I think the Chiefs may have hit a brick wall. I don't think they're done. but I think they've been exposed, and I think Tyreek and Jalen Waddle might take advantage of that.
So this is one of those games where Kansas City's going to come in with a different mindset than they came into their game last week against the Russell Wilson-led Broncos. Martin, this is a showdown. This is a game that, is kind of. I'll just start off by saying it's disappointing that this one is going to be in Germany and starting at 9:30 a.m. because I don't think a lot of fans are going to be wanting to wake up early to catch that game if they like to sleep in on a Sunday, which I'm guessing a lot of people do on the East Coast up until 1 o'clock. Martin, out there in Utah, this is going to start at 7:30, so I don't imagine that you might be watching this start of this game either. And that's disappointing when this could be one of those premier matchups that we look back at the end of the season and say, those are two of the best teams in the conference. They battled it out, and the MVP was decided, arguably, in this game. This was going to be a chance for Tyreek Hill, you did say it, to get revenge back in Kansas City. Unfortunately, that won't happen. And it wouldn't have happened anyway. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to answer back. They're going to have a totally different mentality going into this game. I suspect that Taylor Swift is going to show back up to this game, Martin. I've been a Travis Kelce fantasy owner in one of my leagues, first overall, and I have not minded the Taylor Swift showing up to the game one bit because Travis Kelce has showed out pretty much every time she has showed up. The Finns are a great story, but I think this is where the men and the young boys kind of get separated a little bit. I got the Chiefs by a hair at home. Martin, Seahawks and Ravens, who takes the cake?
I'm trying to look up the record here as I speak, and it's not shown. Actually, there it is. So the Seahawks are 3-3 all time against the Baltimore Ravens. The last time they saw the Ravens was in 2019, and yes, that was a Lamar Jackson led offense. Lamar Jackson's offense, the Baltimore Ravens defense versus the Geno Smith offense and their defense. Two tough defenses, two tough offenses. A lot of running, a lot of play action. Baltimore has been very good at home. They've been able to defend home really well this year. They won against the Texans. They won against the Lions at home. So I'm going to bank on that, and I'm going to take Baltimore in this game. I just think their play action offense might surprise Seattle, and I think if they can get out to a type of momentum start they had against Detroit, I think Baltimore can take this one away. Baltimore.
Martino is rolling with the Ravens, and quote the Raven, Martin, I'm rolling with them as well. Looking at the points per game these teams have put up. Now, I know they're slightly different in style. You could make the argument that the Seahawks have better weapons in the pass game. You could argue that the Ravens have been a more consistent rush team throughout the years. But Martin, overall on offense, looking at the points per game these teams have put up in the last 5 weeks, let's go last 4 weeks. They have not gotten over 24 points at all in the last 4 weeks, the Seahawks. Yet the Ravens have gone 28-10, 24, 38, 31. They've been more consistently finding the end zone and not settling for field goals and chip shots. Martin, I'm going to roll with the Ravens as well to get this one done. The stat you heard the other week, Martin, was that Lamar Jackson, I think, is now 16-1 in his career against teams in the NFC. He's going to not drop a second loss as well. He gets them done cross-conference. I'm rolling with Baltimore as well. How about Cleveland, an 8-point favorite at home against Josh Dobb-less Arizona?
So we're probably going to get the season premiere or season debut of Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray on his first start versus the Cleveland Browns. As far as I'm aware of, I believe Deshaun Watson is still in possibility as I'm looking it up here as I'm talking. So I try to find it. Injury, bring it to me. Come on. He practiced today with shoulder injury. It's possibly he makes sense. It's possible he may start. Nonetheless, I know I'm rambling on here, Jacob. I apologize about that. I'll take the Browns. This is an easy one. I just think Kyler Murray's not ready yet for the first game to go up against the Browns and defeat them, especially with that defense. I expect Myles Garrett to have a fun day. I expect that defense to have at least a pick. PJ Walker will be bailed out again.
Martin, I won't destroy you in your over analysis of this game because it's just too simple, Martin. This is Cleveland. The real battle here is the spread at -8, as opposed to the money lines, which we're doing. Martin, the Browns are going to win this one with ease. I can't think of a worse team to throw Kyler Murray out into the fire than the Cleveland Browns defense that's been off to a historic start to the first 7-8 weeks of the season now, Martino. They had to slip up with the Colts in recent memory. Losing a close one to the Seahawks kind of hurts. But the defense is what it is. It is what it is. And I could see this being a disaster game for Arizona. I picked them to get a wild upset, almost a double-digit underdog upset, because that's kind of been the trend we've seen in weeks past. It didn't happen there last week against the Ravens, but I can't pick the Cardinals this week. Looks like we're both going with Cleveland. So, Martin, how about Houston, the Texans versus the Buccaneers?
This is going to be a fun one. Tampa coming off, I believe, a bye week. I believe they were off last week. I could be wrong about that.
Nobody was off last week.
Say that again?
Nobody was off last week.
Oh, that's right. Nobody was off last week. I apologize. I was coming back to me. Nonetheless, the Buccaneers defense is solid. They'll challenge this Houston Texans offense. The Texans were challenged last week and they failed to respond, only putting up 13 points in the loss. I just still don't trust this Baker Mayfield offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and because of that, I'll take the Texans on this slightly close game. They're only favored by 2.5. It's not much. I think that's a fair spread. It feels like a teeter-totter, low-scoring game to me.
I feel like this is a game where, Baker Mayfield probably had higher expectations going into the season for just this season alone than maybe CJ Stroud did. And at this point in the season, a lot of people are dropping their Baker Mayfield stock, and a lot of people are buying their CJ Stroud stock. Maybe not the last 2 weeks as much, but overall, as a rookie, he's still, very high in the odds for Roy, Rookie of the Year. But, Martin, I think the quarterbacks will kind of balance themselves out here. Baker Mayfield statistically is having a solid season. 1,600 through just 7 games, 10-4 touchdown interception ratio. CJ Stroud, can answer right back. He's got, even more yards in the air, 1,800 exactly. 9-1 touchdown to interception ratio. But we saw Houston not look very good offensively, multiple times this year, and especially last week in Carolina, the home of the Panthers, where the rookie-on-rookie matchup, it just didn't go out very well for Stroud. This game is going to come down to the running backs, and I trust Dameon Pierce a little bit more than I do Rachaad White. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans like you did, Martin. Bears and Saints. I'm guessing we're getting another Bears pick from you.
You know it, okay? And, I know I'm the one that picks the Bears every week. They're my favorite team. I haven't jumped off the bandwagon all year. It's been a terrible season. I know you're going to pick the Saints, and I'll let you have your moment and explain why the Bears are going to get demolished. The reason why I think the Bears can sneak out with an upset win is because Derek Carr has proven that when he's under severe and truly pressure by defenses that know how to hold him to throwing the ball in short, medium situations and not launch it down the field to Shaheed and Olave. When that doesn't happen, the Saints struggle. So I believe the Bears defense will come up, will challenge him up front, will make him throw the short passes. As long as Bagent doesn't throw an interception, keeps the offense fresh, and doesn't make a stupid move, doesn't throw it to Velus Jones because he'll drop it in the. I'm checking the Bears. I think they're a better team than the Saints. I think the Saints are a flawed team. They're a better team on paper, but I think they're also beatable. The Bears win.
Martin, you expected me to pick the Saints. And while I'm still kind of up in the air about it as I'm, speaking right now, one thing I do really like is I love the Bears against the spread, especially if it's, 7.5. It's now 8.5. It looks like, as it has literally shifted, Martin, in the last 20 minutes of us recording this video, from 7.5, less than an hour ago. Martin, I'm tempted to pick the Bears here as well, almost outright. I don't know if I will get myself to do it. Justin Fields is listed as questionable. There's a chance he could go. There's times where we're legitimately watching the Saints this year, and Taysom Hill looks like the better option at quarterback than Derek Carr. I mean, my God, it just has not been a good season for Mr. Carr. I mean, you remember he came into the year, and he was just so happy with the way, the fans were treating him in New Orleans. He felt great. He felt amazing. Martin, I saw some advanced statistics that said Chris Olave was one of the best throughout the season so far in 2023 at getting separation on his routes, yet Chris Olave is not matching the production of the other top guys in the league alongside, your A.J. Browns, your Tyreek Hills, your Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's just not quite up there. So I will roll with the Saints. I don't have, a very good reason. I just love the points, the Bears taking the points, but not the money line, I guess. Not confident here, but I guess I'm going to go with the Saints, Martin.
Nonetheless, I think it's a good
pick. Our next game, Martin, it's the Vikings and the Falcons.
Vikings and the Falcons. Well, the battle of the backups. We're going to see a former BYU quarterback, Jaren Hall, probably start. Joshua Dobbs got traded this week, so I don't think he'll be up to speed with the offense right away. So Jaren Hall will get his season debut start versus Taylor Heineke, who's been the starter for Atlanta. So you have a quarterback that has his name changed because they just don't want to say Heineken. To me, it's still Heineken. Nonetheless, can Bierman try to pull off an upset at home versus the Vikings? Can Jaren Hall go out there on his first debut start and win? No. I'm going to say the Falcons are going to win this game. Taylor has the more experience, though I think Jaren Hall might have the longer career because he's got the better arm. And he probably fits Minnesota a whole lot better than Kirk Cousins for the moment, with just the fact that he can throw it longer and harder. Atlanta will still win this game. Taylor Heineke is better than the Vikings. As long as the Falcons defense doesn't do anything stupid, they can win this game.
They certainly can. Martin, I can't remember a game in my life where two teams that were both 500 faced off each other mid-season and there was zero hype around the game at all. I mean, at all. Because normally, this is a classic case of two teams who are in the same conference are fighting for what could be one of those pivotal matchups late in the season in the wild card race. I mean, Minnesota is trailing Detroit right now. If they want to make it into the playoffs, they got to win it. Atlanta's behind. I don't even know who they're behind. That's how bad the division is. But Martin, Kirk Cousins is gone. Desmond Ridder is benched. This is a snooze fest of a game. And while you're picking the Vikings here, I'm kind of surprised you're picking the...
No, I'm not picking the Vikings. I'm picking the Falcons.
Okay, you're picking the Falcons. We're going to both roll with the Falcons here, Martin. I see Bijan Robinson potentially having to line up at Wildcat to get this victory done, but they're going to find a way. There's no way we're going to pick the Vikings right now with all their injuries. What a sad, sad way for the Vikings to kind of lose their season, even if Justin Jefferson may be a go this week. But, Martin, on to the next game. We're both taking the Falcons. How about the Rams and the Pack?
Yeah, the Rams and the Packers. Just to touch on the last matchup, I think Kirk Cousins has got the torn Achilles because Aaron Rodgers was probably thinking to himself, nah, You're not coming back and beating the Lions to win a division while I'm hurt. If I'm going to be hurt, Kirk Cousins, you're going to be hurt. I don't know what voodoo magic Aaron Rodgers pulled off, but he pulled something off when the Vikings were beating the Packers last week in Lambeau. Back to Lambeau here. The Rams will come in. They'll beat the Packers. The Packers' offense is just so bad. I mean, it's not even just Jordan Love. It's the running game is bad. It's the offensive line is playing bad. It's the wide receivers are playing bad. It's the defense having to trade Rasul Douglas. They lost him in the trade deadline, which we didn't talk about here. We'll talk about later. But the point is, the Packers season is done, and this is the game to finally put the nail in the coffin, put them at 2-6, and kiss their season goodbye, and pray that they get a top lottery pick in the NFL draft. The Rams will come in, even though they're not a better team. Stafford and that offense would do enough to win.
Martin, I feel like this is the lock of the week right here. I think the Rams are going to win this one. I have no reason. I have no reason to believe that Green Bay should be a 3-point favorite in this game. I mean, just top to bottom on paper, the Rams should get this victory, even if it's on the road. I mean, looking at this line, you would think that Matthew Stafford is injured or something. That's not the case. He'll be good to go. Martin, it's the Rams. It's the Rams all day. I'm not going to put too much thought into this one. The Packers have, underperformed given people's high expectations for a quarterback starting now all of a sudden a couple years into his career. A lot of these matchups you can just boil down to who has the more stable quarterback. And there's not many games where Matthew Stafford is the more stable quarterback, but this is certainly one of them against Jordan Love. Martin, we are both taking the Rams, correct?
Yes. Yes, we are.
So Pats and Commanders, will we both agree here?
No, maybe. I'm taking the Commanders in this one. As much as I want to think New England off of the comeback win versus the Bills and how exciting that was towards the very end, the Patriots have played in way too many close games this year, and so have the Commanders. The Commanders haven't been totally polished either. They've been in some really close games as well and have lost those close games. I just think when it comes to these marginal teams, the worst of the teams is the Patriots, and I think they're just not going to get the win. I think the Commanders can go on the road and pull off an ugly win. I don't think this game will be very high scoring at all. Logan Thomas is the solid receiver. Terry McLaurin for Howell. Curtis Samuel is questionable in this game. I know Washington lost Sweat and Young in trades, but I still don't think the Patriots are good enough. Give me the Commanders.
I feel like every week, if someone picks the Patriots, they're kind of the Patriots pick is really off of hope than it is reality. It's off of what they've seen Belichick's defense do in the past, as opposed to what it's looking like this season. Not that the defense has fallen off a cliff, but the offense just hasn't been there at all. Martin, the last 5, they put up 17-29, which is good, but 17 again, 0 and 3. Martin, this offense is just absolutely pathetic. Mac Jones, will have his day every once in a while against a divisional opponent. Bill Belichick has all the film in the world on every single coach and what they've done ever since going to preschool. Martin, the Commanders should win this game on paper, and I don't think it's. This is a really tough one. I don't think I can pick against them, even in Bill Belichick's house. I like the weapons. I think that they've found a way to include Terry McLaurin and Robinson Jr. throughout the season, even in some of these tough losses. Sam Howell gets it done as far as yardage, as far as touchdown to interception ratio, but he's not one of those players who is going to get a first down on a 3rd and long, or capitalize on a really tough red zone spot, or come through in a meaningful drive down the stretch of the game. He's not going to do that. But if they build a lead early, they'll find a way. Looks like we're both rolling with the Commanders here. Martin, Colts at Panthers. Can the Panthers go 2 in a row?
I have to break this little streak. Actually, I'll take that back. I thought you picked the Bears, so we only have a streak of a couple teams here. Colts, Panthers. Sorry, Jacob. I'm going with Colts only because as much as I loved what I saw from Bryce Young this past week, and as much as I loved from the resurgence from the defense, especially, what I saw what Bryce Young did in the game was actually push the ball down the field. I think finally, I don't know who the Panthers offensive coordinator is, but he finally decided to say, screw it. I don't know if you play NFL Madden like I do, but there's a play in Madden that everybody knows, which is called play action crossers, which is just basically 3 crossing vertical routes with a tight end who kicks out for a 5-yard out towards the sidelines and just throw the ball to whichever receiver is faster than the corner and see if they can catch it down the field. And I saw a lot more type of that offense from the Panthers. I'm proud of them for that, but I don't think it's enough to turn their season around. And I think the Colts can take advantage of the fact that the Panthers are trying to do that. And I think the Colts will walk out with a win in Carolina.
A guy by the name of Thomas Brown has taken over Frank Reich's play calling. Martin, that's maybe why you saw things play out a little differently. Bryce Young has not actually been as bad as his overall stats would show, just with 1,200 yards throughout the season in 7 games. Martin, he's doing all he can with the worst offensive line in football. He's doing all he can with literally just one decent target. Adam Thielen has just been, he's been the man's best friend. He's been the dog by his side. He's been the one to be there when he needs him. But other than that, Bryce Young has no friends out there on the football field who are, doing anything of value for him. But Martin, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to take the Panthers here. I think Chuba Hubbard has been nice. I don't know how, speaking of dogs, Miles, what's his name? Miles Sanders. There we go. Thinking about, another Miles in pro sports in Carolina, but Miles Sanders is in the doghouse, Martin. He's in the doghouse. He can't seem to escape. But this is Gardner Minshew. I like fading Gardner Minshew. I don't know what the order is of the running backs. I've been joking around with our good friend James that Zach Moss is the number 1. And Jonathan Taylor is getting paid double digits in the mill category to be the backup on the Colts. It's not going to be enough. The Panthers are going to get the victory. Martin, how about the Giants and the Raiders in another equal matchup stinkfest?
Let's talk about the Raiders for a minute here. Fired Josh McDaniels last night, fired the GM last night, fired the offensive coordinator this morning. The defensive coordinator is still on staff. Linebackers coach Antonio Pierce has been named the interim head coach. New offensive coordinator. Going up against the Giants, who get Daniel Jones back after the neck injury. Tyrod Taylor will not be the backup. He is hurt with ribs. So that means whoever played Sunday will be the backup. I forget his name. He played at Illinois. Versus Aiden O'Donnell, which will be the starter for the Raiders. And I still don't get how O'Donnell versus Jones gives Vegas almost a 2.5 point favorite in this game. But then again, I'm not Vegas, who has been on Vegas. I'm only going to pick the Giants just because if I have to pick some of these between these two bad teams, the Giants are slightly better. I mean, they probably won't have Waller because he'll be hurt. They'll have Saquon. They'll have the decent receiving core, whatever's left of it, and that will be it. But, I mean, I feel bad for Raiders fans. They don't deserve this season. It's been horrible. It just can't end. The Giants will put another nail in their terrible season.
Martin is rolling with the Giants here, and it's really a statement to New York that the Giants are not even favored in this game. What's the Coin Flip podcast without Martin Kelly messing up a pronunciation? It's Aiden O'Connell. But,
okay, O'Connell.
Yes, we're going to roll with the Giants here, both of us, Martin. The Raiders are pathetic. This is maybe a chance for Darren Waller to get some revenge. I don't even know if he's going to go. Quick peek at the injury report, but Brian DeBall should hopefully live up to his Coach of the Year award from last season. Martin, Daniel Jones, it's bad news there for Daniel Jones throughout the entire season. There are some dogs on this Raiders squad. I believe that they can kind of rally together. Could it be the Colts with Jeff Saturday from last year? I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders won. Don't get me wrong, because this will be a game where the total is like less than 35 or something like that. I'm going to roll with the Giants as well. This will not be a game I'm going to be watching on Sunday, however. How about the Cowboys and the Eagles? That's going to be a game I'm going to watch.
Yes, and it will be a game I watch too. And, well, Jacob, I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. And yes, I said I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. And simply I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. Not because I'm trying to hate on the Eagles. Not because I've picked the Eagles for 3 weeks in a row and they have burned me. Not because that I think the Cowboys are better than the Eagles, but because the Philadelphia Eagles cannot run the ball to save their life. Jacob, you know how big and how fluffy of a person I am. I cannot run anybody on the Philadelphia Eagles running back setup right now, okay? I'm a better runner than those guys. I don't get it, okay? They let go of Miles Sanders in the offseason. They go after DeAndre Swift. They think he's a better option. They still have Boston Scott. They still have some of their banged-up running backs they've had for the last few years. And once again, DeAndre Swift can't actually run the ball anymore. I don't know what happened to him in Detroit. Maybe his legs died there and he forgot him in Detroit and forgot to pack him with them. But they can't run the ball to save their lives. The Cowboys will smother them defensively. The Cowboys can run the ball a little slightly better. As much as I don't think the Cowboys are the better team, right now the Eagles' offense is at a standstill, and I think the Cowboys can take advantage of that. Give me the Dallas Cowboys.
Martin, this is a terrible take from the angle that you took on it, not necessarily the outcome of who wins. Martin, the Eagles average 15 yards more yards per game on the ground than the Cowboys do. So if the Eagles can't run the ball, I don't know who can. The tush push is the tush push, and Micah Parsons won't be able to do a damn thing about it. Jalen Hurts seems to pick up anything on 4th and 1 or less, although they had the rare fumble last week on the goal line. I don't think that'll happen 2 weeks in a row. I think Swift is enough. I think the offensive line is the offensive line. And Martin, while I don't think you could be back there and have some success, maybe I could, be back there and pick up a yard or two here or there. But Martin, I'm gonna roll with the Eagles since they're at home. I think since they play each other quite literally twice in, 5 weeks, I think they're going to split. I think they'll both win at home. I think I'll take the Eagles here. I think they've been hearing the chit chat from Micah Parsons on his little episode show on Bleacher Report or wherever I see it across the timeline. I think the Eagles will find a way to get this one done. I'm fading Martin. I'm fading Philly. I'm fading Dallas. But Martin, how about the next game? How about Bills and Bengals? Probably the best game of the week.
Bengals, Bills, that'll be a fun game. Sunday night game. I'm going to be glued to my television for that one. Taking the Bengals in this one. I don't know what's wrong with Josh Allen. The Bills' offense is okay. I mean, Josh Allen looks like he'll lead the league in interceptions, which I don't want him to turn into an Eli Manning type player. So hopefully they can get that fixed with Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator. But I'll take the Bengals at home. They look good.
Well, Josh Allen's kind of like a Brett Favre with sort of a Cam Newton mentality. Martin, you're taking the Bills, correct?
I'm taking the Bengals. Bengals. Cincinnati.
So you're rolling with the Bengals. Martin, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think Joe Burrow senses the urgency a little bit higher right now. This is going to be a classic rematch of the playoffs from a couple years back. This is just going to be an absolute showdown. I can't wait for who pulls this one out, but I think the Bengals need it a little bit more. I think, with the division they're in, I think the urgency to capture the number one spot is going to be greater. You could see the high likelihood of a couple, Wildcat teams coming out of that division, but I think the Bengals want to get their footprints, and they're at home. They're a slight favorite. It could grow. This Josh Allen, you never know what you're going to get with this guy. I think Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty is back. We're both rolling with the Bengals. Martin, on now to the Chargers at Zach Wilson and the Jets.
So I'll make this one simple. I'm taking the Chargers in this one out of these two bad teams. I think the Chargers offense will surpass offense. If you look at the last few games, Jacob, the last 3 games the Jets have won, which are the 3 games that the Jets fans hold their hats on this season, saying, look, we won 3 games in a row with Zach Wilson. They beat the Broncos by 10. They beat the Jets by 6, and then they beat the Giants by 3. Their margin of win keeps decreasing. They keep getting closer and closer to a loss, and I think this week will be the week that they lose because I think they got away with playing some teams that are offensively struggling, and they took advantage of some late opportunities for them to win that game, especially against the Eagles and the Giants in those games. But I don't think that magic will continue this week. Give me the Chargers.
Taking the Chargers is a good idea on the road. It's tough to see Zach Wilson and the Jets pull off another miracle win. I kind of agree with where you're going on this one. Although like I've said, I think the Chargers really, if you're thinking about a Super Bowl, their best path to it is to find a way for Brandon Staley to get fired, and that might be to lose, but that's not going to happen. The Chargers will handle business. Herbert maybe hasn't been as good as Herbert fans would have liked him to be this season, even if that's asking him to, basically take up a step up and just basically be, Patrick Mahomes. That's really one of the next best things in the NFL, but this is a tough ask for the Jets. The winning streak, it's going to be hard to see that, prevailing here. While the Jets had, a great run to finish off the season last year, that's going to get harder and harder without Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to roll with the Chargers as well, Martin, as we finish off our Week 9 predictions in the Coin Flip podcast. 49ers, Broncos, Jags, Lions, all in the bye week. Any comments you want to make on those teams?
Yeah, I do want to comment on all 4 teams real quick. The Niners, they traded for Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Fred Warner. I mean, they already have a studded defense with Shavarius Ward in the secondary and amongst of other players. I can't name them all. I apologize to all Niners fans. But adding Chase Young is a very, very opportunistic move for the Niners to solidify their defense. Can he stay healthy? Can he play up to what he was coming out of college? He really hasn't done it since his rookie year. He's had injuries, causing problems, so we'll see what that does to him. To the Broncos, they need this week. Coming off the upset win over the Chiefs, can they get into practice this week and gain some more momentum as a team to go into next week and win? To the Jags, this is a perfect moment for them to take a break. Obviously, they're dominating their division. They're doing it with their eyes closed at this point, too. They had a good win over the Steelers. It was ugly with the rain and all the mud, but the Jags fought off the early struggles and were able to win that game in the second half. And then to the Lions, what more can you say about the Lions this year? They're exceeding everything that we thought, just in the sense that we all thought they would win the division, but we didn't think they would dominate it kind of early this way. I'm not saying that it's been so dominating that they're the best team in the NFL, but considering how bad the NFC North is, they're running away with the division with 2 games ahead of the Vikings, who just lost their starting quarterback. The Lions do need a break from all the chaos. I think they'll take the week off. I think they'll get ready for next week, and I think the Lions will continue their hot season.
Some good comments there on the bye week. Martin, I don't need to add anything more. That's the Coin Flip podcast. Week 9 predictions. Week 8 reactions. Appreciate all the views we got on our last episode. Looking forward to potentially some more. Share the video if you enjoyed it. Appreciate you making it to the end. We'll be back again next week. Of course, every week, somewhere in the middle of the week, we will upload these videos. Catch us next time to see how we did in Week 9. I'm Jacob. That's Martin. See ya.
Peace.